Record on the computer. Well, welcome. God, it's so great to see you guys. And I've been jamming on this. So just quick background, which is that I have really pivoted in my business from being all about marketing, and I still do have a small boutique digital marketing agency with a focus on video content marketing. But I have been doing these cohorts of the Video Mojo Creativity Sandbox. Video Mojo, as you may know, is named after my podcast, which is now up to 60 something episodes. And, it's about getting your video mojo on. So there's an overlap with this unleashing your creativity. But the sandbox has really become purely about unleashing creativity and people having more fun doing creativity. So let me go back to that screen share and I will get into my presentation, which I have a lot to cover. And I also am going to, hi, Laura.
Hi.
Will you mute yourself for me? Thank you. Yeah, well done. So I am going to do a presentation, I think about 20, 25 minutes, and then we can have a conversation. There's so much that we can talk about with regard to both video and AI and creativity. And it's really up to you. If you have any questions or want to have a conversation about any of this, we can focus on any one of those areas. And I literally could do an hour on each one of them: creativity, video, or AI, and also the aspect of community. So these are kind of the components that I see of what goes into a unique framework that I've developed as part of doing these Creativity Sandbox programs that combines creative joy and having fun with using the tools of video and AI. So I'll explain. The bottom line is, I love this quote from Casey Neistat, that the most dangerous thing that you can do in life is to play it safe. And far too many of us spend our time worrying about other people, what other people think. And one of the things that we're constantly talking about in the sandbox, you may or may not know the book, The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. He talks about resistance. And anytime, guaranteed, that you undertake some kind of creative enterprise and you want to unleash that natural, playful spirit that I think we all have inside us, resistance comes up. I don't look good enough. I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too this. I'm too that. And that's just part of the fabric and part of the fun and part of the adventure of getting the payoff that does come from not playing it safe and taking risks and being willing to express your creative joy. So through this, it was funny. I got an email. I sent this graphic out in an email a little while ago, and a friend of mine from New Zealand said back, "Oh, I like that one. I like that graphic." He was talking about this one that I've got on the screen now. He said, "Was that Chat GPT?" And actually, this is hand drawn by myself. I drew it on an iPad using an Apple Pencil, but this is hand drawn. So all the graphics in this presentation, including the one that I started with, not the photograph on the Casey Neistat, that's one of the few images that is not at this point replaced by some kind of AI. And this is a completely new presentation. But just very briefly, I come by this passion for creativity. Honestly, I've been inventing new forms of media going all the way back to 1971. I've also been on a spiritual journey even longer. Been to India 4 times, studied with an Indian guru, and I'll get into that's another story. One of the things I like about myself is that I really am a lifelong learner. The keyboard here is for real, and actually in the last cohort of the Video Mojo Creativity Sandbox, I practiced piano every day as part of my commitment during the 14-day sprint. So I'm learning music, I'm learning sketching, as you can see from this illustration. I'm passionate about TikTok. And, and I also work professionally as a creative director, as a digital marketing strategist. I've been a video creator. I started my own company in 1985. So yes, I've been a business owner for 30, I think it's going to 39, 38 years now. And write, produce, direct, do video. So this is both the video and the exploration of new technology that AI is, as well as just being creative pretty much on a daily basis, is the water that I swim in. And hopefully that experience can be useful in terms of what we're talking about here today. So, whoops, we went by. Go back one. Thank you. So, to be clear, my purpose here today in the workshop, or the play shop, if you will, that I'm going to be presenting, the purpose is joyful, joyous, creative freedom. And that phrase came to me as I started doing work that focused more on helping people unleash their own creativity. And, you could just say play, or you could just say fun, but I think this maybe says it a little more explicitly. So I can talk about video and video marketing from a strategic point of view of business marketing and business branding and all of that. I'll touch on that just a little bit in video, but really the purpose of putting these pieces together today is to talk about the opportunity that exists for all of us to be more creative and to express that inner calling that at least some of us have. I see a lot of frustration of people who have wanted to do music or have wanted to do painting or have wanted to do poetry, any kind of creative output, and they don't do it. And I'm now of an age where there's a limited amount of years for sure. We all have that. Spoiler alert, as my friend Neil Rogan used to say, the hero dies in the end. There's no getting out of here alive. So we all, if you have a creative calling, the time is now. And far too many of us have that inkling or that urge to do something creative and not the courage to do it. So I'm going to talk about ways that we can move through that. I also think that fundamentally creativity is a spiritual game, if you will. Elizabeth Gilbert says that only when we are at our most playful can divinity get serious with us. And, by playing, not only does joy get sparked, but I do think that there's a relationship with the muse, a relationship with the creative genius that Elizabeth Gilbert talks about in her TED Talk. And if you haven't seen her TED Talk on creativity, I recommend that. So this is the framework that I've come up with over the last couple of years that you could call it the secret sauce. This is the alchemy that I think that I know now from the experience and the successes that we've had actually with the two cohorts of the Creativity Sandbox that I've done, that this combination produces real results. So let me just talk to you briefly, and then I'm going to walk through kind of the three dimensions. AI goes into the video circle, but Video Mojo and playing with video, I look at video as the language of now and the language of the future. On the marketing side of things, there just isn't any question that video has become really the most important media in building relationships, whether your goal is to build a community or your goal is to sell a product or a service. Video is what humanizes the relationship when you're communicating via the internet or via the web or via social media. And so what we do in the Sandbox is we make video a part of it. Normally, or in both cohorts, everybody has chosen to keep the videos within our private community that the people that do the Sandbox are part of. But I'm a big fan of doing it online and learning by experimentation. And I'll talk about TikTok and all that in a second. The second part is that, I wish that there was a shortcut, but all of this takes practice. Every video marketer that I've ever heard talk about their journey talks about how they sucked at the beginning. And, kind of like part of the journey is your first 20 videos are going to suck. And, and when I started learning the piano, I still pretty much suck, but I'm at the early stages. And same thing with golf, same thing with, name a discipline or name a talent, name a skill you want to develop. You have to cultivate a practice. The only way that you get anywhere is by doing it regularly. And there's an overlap with the world of marketing there too, because the only way that you really get traction on social media, on YouTube, what have you, is through consistency, by making it a practice. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then the third component is collaboration or community, that you have to do it. Nobody else can do it, but you can't do it alone. That's what I've found, is that it's in community, it's in fellowship, it's in, collaborating with other people, that everything really kind of takes off and gels and moves into a new dimension. And I haven't figured out how to do it without that. Somebody, Bond, I think you're not muted. Let me mute you. I'm just hearing some background noise. Great. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? I guess I can take a peek at the chat. I don't want to like be a fire hose with all this information, but I also want to give you as much value as I can. So let me pause there, take a quick, is it making sense? Are people with me? And I appreciate you all being here. It's great. But any comments, questions, or anything so far that I can respond to in the chat, or are you ready to dive into these 3 dimensions? Speak up now, or I'll just keep going.
Dive in.
All right, Jim, thank you. Thanks for being here too. All right, so let me go back to that. So here we go. That's the context, is the kind of the 3-part harmony, if you will, of that thing. So let's talk, we're going to talk first about video and AI. And I'm going to do my best. I'm going to bring in an expert witness in a moment. But, these things are, the video communication aspect, I think, is almost more widely known than the AI aspect, even though there's been all this hype and buzz about AI. AI is, to me, the most important thing is it's a creativity enhancer, but it's also a game changer. And so we're kind of living in an environment where both AI and video are underestimated opportunities. All of these graphics I created using either Midjourney or DALL-E 3 inside ChatGPT, other than the ones that are kind of obviously hand-drawn and are funky, therefore I drew them. But the kind of creativity empowerment that's available when you play, and again, you come back to play, fun, experiment. Is it perfect? No, but it's also the worst AI that we're ever going to have. So even though it has this enormous power, it's just the beginning. So to try and bring that home for you, I brought Barack Obama to the party. Not, he's not a tech wizard per se, but I think we probably can all agree that he's somebody that understands the big picture about society. And I'm not going to play this whole clip, but I do want to play the beginning of it, because I think that just him saying it might make it more credible than just me.
And look,
can you hear that audio?
Hyperbole.
One of you people that grabs the audio, let me know. I'm going to start it right over.
Yeah, we can hear it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so here's Barack Obama.
I talked to one executive, and look, there's no shortage of hyperbole in the tech world, right? But this is a pretty sober guy, like an adult who's
now I have to guess who it is.
Who's seen a bunch of these cycles and been through boom and bust, and I asked him. I said, "Well, when you say this technology you think is going to be transformative, give me sort of some analogy." He said, "I sat with my team, and we talked about it. And after going around and around, what we decided was maybe the best analogy was electricity." And I thought, well, yeah, electricity, that was a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I think what they recognize is that it's in their own commercial self-interest that there's not some big screw up on this.
So he's getting into the dangers of AI, but the concept about electricity, I think, is the important one, because it is, when they say it's a game changer and oh my God, then there's another innovation and it's another game changer. Where we're headed with this is that AI is going to become part of the fabric. And I also think the power is underestimated. So I'm, just to give you a taste, and it's a slight spoiler, but I'm going to just do a very quick demo. or not even a demo, just show you something that I was working on this morning. Forgive all my tabs. But so I wanted to do a graphic. This was maybe 10 minutes of work. And I said that, later in the presentation, you'll see the graphic that I ended up with. But conversationally in ChatGPT 4, you do need a Plus account to be using the graphics components, which are now built into the Plus account on ChatGPT. I wanted a graphic that was fun and creative, collaborative energy of playing well with others and the benefits of a container that a supportive community provides. And it came up with this, which, this was pretty good. I mean, but it just kind of felt too childlike to me. So very simply, and I'm very comfortable giving creative direction, I said, it's too cheesy, make a more professional look. Came back with this. That felt too corporate and too kind of scientific to me. So I said, split the difference and make it playful and childlike, and also give me a 16:9 aspect ratio. So I still wasn't happy, to be honest about it, but this is the being willingness to play and experiment. So without getting into the details, I gave it more creative direction. So I wanted the energy of play and still the community aspect. To be 100% honest, I was not 100% thrilled with this output, but as you'll see, I did end up using it later in the presentation. So I don't even know how to articulate how much more powerful that is than going to stock photography or, and not necessarily finding an image, but finding, if you do find an image, stock photography ends up looking incredibly stale these days. So to get multiple fresh creative treatments that are conceptually on track with what I'm talking about and the ability to iterate. We talk about, treating AI like a very, very smart intern. And, you have to take responsibility. I don't know if any of you have ever had interns or trained interns, but you have to take responsibility to teach them and train them, to tell them exactly what you want. The great thing about AI is that not only can you tell it what you want, it never gets tired of iterating and iterating and iterating as many times as you want to play an experiment. So hopefully that makes my point in terms of creative collaboration and so forth. But I'm going to move on to video, and again, we'll have Q&A at the end if you want to talk more about this. So video is another dimension of a whole new media landscape. And this is something that I'm very passionate about. I'm still surprised, even though I do see organizations like the Content Marketing Institute talk about how critical video is now to marketing. But bottom line, websites are like brochures and don't build relationships. I think that marketing and also making a difference are about developing relationships and people connecting to people. And so there's this human emotional engagement that happens through video. And so, the bottom line is the traditional advertising and websites don't work the way they used to. They're not as effective. And there's a new kind of marketing or engagement or connecting in community that happens by being authentic, being real, and being willing to show your face, just like I am right now. So it humanizes and animates the conversations. So there's good news and there's bad news about that. The good news is that the ongoing conversations are the seeds of successful, and I'm using the term content marketing here broadly. They're the seeds of successful conversations. There's the seeds of meaningful connection because we're talking about things we care about. The not so good news, and where the biggest challenge has been for me and virtually everybody that I've worked with, is the challenge of consistency. And so that brings the video connectivity and creative empowerment that I'm talking about back to the second circle in my three-part harmony of the three legs of how do you unleash joyous creative freedom, because you have to make it a practice. I talked about that earlier. Excuse me. So cultivating a new practice is something that eludes a lot of us. I am still sharing. I'm not seeing that yellow thing. I'm going to do. Yeah, I am. You're still seeing the graphics, right? Give me a little audio feedback again.
But it's not on full screen. We can see your desktop behind it.
Yeah, not in presentation mode.
Ah, all right, let's try that again. Thank you. Glad I asked. So how about now? Yeah, now I see the box around it. Thank you. I'm glad I asked.
That works.
All right, so this is the three-part harmony again, cultivating a new practice. And as I learned, it's interesting. I've talked about this and taught about this and had my own frustrations around discipline and consistency. And in the last cohort of the Sandbox, I took on really kind of diving into my keyboard and learning piano. And it did feel like kindergarten on one level because I was starting out and it was very basic. But that old thing of 15 minutes a day, that was my commitment, was to practice a minimum of 15 minutes a day. Most days it was more than that, but I kept the commitment. And there I talk about developing the creative muscle that comes from a practice. Just like going to the gym, you need to do the reps. And by showing up and doing the reps of, just banging at the keyboard and learning a Taylor Swift song that I'm learning, I made real progress. But it went beyond that. So, yeah, I'm going to come back to this. So I have one more expert witness for you, and I'm going to come back. There is no substitute for the practice. Many of you are probably are familiar with Rick Rubin. If you're not, he's a legendary record producer who has worked with, an amazing array of artists. There's a phenomenal show I'll recommend on the side on Hulu, where he sits down with Paul McCartney for 4 sessions with mixed masters. But anyway, he's published a book about the creative process recently. And I pulled a video. You could tell both these came off TikTok, actually. And there's a point that he makes that I want to underscore.
If you want to live in a creative way, which will benefit everything in your life, what makes it great is the personal.
Yeah.
With all of its imperfections, with all of its quirkiness, that's what makes it great. How you see the world, that's different from how everyone else sees the world. That's why you're an artist. That's your purpose in sharing your work with the world. We're not smart.
And that's the fundamental thing. Not only is it okay to be messy, it's good to be messy. Brene Brown, another TED Talk that I highly recommend it's called, the original one is called The Power of Vulnerability, that human connection comes when we're perfectly imperfect or imperfectly perfect. And the other thing that he says there at the beginning that really played out for me personally in this last round of the Sandbox was your whole life gets better when you let that creativity out. And so there's a reinforcement that happens that, I found that by exercising the creative muscle of being willing to put in reps and be bad and, kind of suck at the beginning, I found that, if I can do it for 15 minutes a day, maybe I really can do that stretching program 15 minutes a day. It's like there's a personal learning that happens from cultivating a practice. And then the last piece is the community aspect of playing well with others. This is my yoga teacher, Hannah Muse, says, only you can do it, but you can't do it alone. And there's that graphic that I created just this morning in ChatGPT. But that, there is no substitute. I have learned that I can't do it alone. I actually use an online application. Here's another tip for you called Focus Mate, MATE, where I get hooked up with people all over the world and do co-working sessions in a Zoom-like interface. But there are many ways in my life that I have brought community together or involved myself in community, and the accountability is priceless, immeasurable. It's just a core component of getting it done and moving forward, and like I said, unleashing your own creative freedom. So I guess I've talked enough about the Sandbox. We do have a new cohort coming up on the November 30th. Use the code FUN for $100 off if you want to join us. And I am open to individual one-on-one conversations. So there's my contact information, and I think you all know how to reach me anyway if you want to have a one-on-one conversation to explore the cohort. But I don't want to do any kind of big sales pitch. I just want to mention that it's there for you if you want to talk about it. And that is, as I said 25 minutes. It's 27 after the hour. So what resonated with you or didn't? We're in a Zoom session. Anybody can open their mic, and let me catch up. Gina liked that quote. And also Trish loved that life gets better when you allow the creativity. It was Elizabeth, not Elizabeth Gibson, Elizabeth Gilbert. Yeah, Laura got it right. So anybody have any questions, comments, suggestions, criticisms, props, high fives?
I'll jump in. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating just to see what you can do with the images on, AI. I haven't seen that in practice that way. So I'm curious, and I agree. I feel like I've gone through my own experience the last couple of years of like getting creative in ways that I hadn't been. I've been on the writing side, but not the kind of visual creative side. And I felt a real kind of opening up, and definitely that sense of kind of connection to something greater. And it made me start to feel like creativity is a birthright that our society doesn't support. There's so much kind of do it right and kind of criticism when you're young. So I feel like a lot of us end up pushing it down and being too self-critical rather than realizing it's a means, right? It's a method to kind of connect with something larger than yourself. And so, yeah, I feel like a lot of what you said really resonated.
Awesome.
And I'm just curious more about like how the cohort works, like what kind of structure there is, how you set it up, what people do, that kind of stuff.
Sure. Oh, yeah, that's right. And you asked me that in one of our online conversations. Laura and I met through the Circle. So I use the Circle platform now. It's actually in the first cohort, I used a different one called Podia, but I've come over to Circle, and Laura and I met in the Circle community. So it's a 3-week structure. The first week is, I call it onboarding, and there are 2 live sessions in addition to the online community. The online community obviously is 24/7, and I love interacting with people and am happy to support people in video and AI, whatever. But the first week, the 2 sessions are about onboarding and kind of setting our intention and looking at what is the commitment that we want to do for a 14-day sprint. And then the second 2 weeks, which also have 2 live sessions each week, are a 14-day sprint designed to both, flex that creative muscle like I was talking about, and also to put your face out. So people post in Circle each day what they did. Sometimes they share, like read a poem or play where I'm at with a song I'm learning or whatever, or just say, today there was resistance. And I really didn't want to show up, or I felt tired, or whatever, but I showed up and did it, or I missed yesterday and now I'm getting back on the boat, and they're on the bus is what I meant to say. So does that answer your question, Laura? That's the structure that I came up with. I did a course a couple of years ago in course development. And so I identified that they call it the transformation, is to move people from I want to do it, but I haven't been doing it. I've been procrastinating. One of the participants, who I think who had the biggest breakthrough in the last cohort, he said, for decades, I've been wanting to focus on my music and play my guitar daily and write song. He has a song that he's writing about his daughter. That's so lovely. And so he said, I'm actually going to record a testimonial with him later this morning, but this thing that he's been hanging out with and been eating at him, because that's the other side. I love what you said about creativity as a birthright and the way that it makes life better. But the other reality is that resistance is always there. And so, you have to, for me anyway, I have to have a community. And so the idea is, participants have skin in the game because they're paying for it, and they have community and accountability, and even that is not a guarantee. I've also seen, in fact, I will say this in his testimonial, so I'm not telling out of school. He did both cohorts, and the first cohort, he didn't really show up and had a very difficult time making any progress. I think out of the 14 days, he maybe posted 2 or 3. And he came back, and he's my hero now, because he came back, and then this time he was like, I think he did every day, or if he didn't, he did almost every day. And it's like I said, it's changed his life, it's changed his world. Everything's moved. So it's pretty cool. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's basically you set things up, you set the first week, and then you have 2 live sessions per week, and then otherwise it's people doing the sprint and posting their stuff. Is that basically what it involves?
And the live sessions are very interactive. I was going to try and do more of it today in the spirit of calling it a play shop, and just didn't really kind of get to organizing that part, to be honest. But in the sessions during the Sandbox, we have 3, like I put up a timer, we have 3-minute journaling exercises. So they're questions that are, both looking at resistance and looking at your child, because I think that when I developed the idea for the Sandbox originally, I was in a creativity workshop at Esalen, and I did a presentation. Everybody in the class did a presentation. And there's a meditation that I do, for example, in the first onboarding session, going back to remembering the way we used to play as kids, or very specifically the way you used to play as a kid, or I used to play as a kid, and the freedom and uninhibited kind of non-judgmental aspect of it. And that does it. You mentioned the kind of, I would call it, shaming that a lot of us have experienced as kids, and that we get pushed down. But it also is not only present in those painful memories, it's present just in the self-judgment. I mean, working with people around video over the years, almost no one has not said, I'm sorry for the double negative, I don't like how I look on camera, or, I'm not comfortable on camera. And, my response at this point is, so what? Because we all feel that. And I'm not trying to discount the fear and the reality of it, but it's just part, like resistance, it's part of the fabric. You can take any professional golfer and show them their golf swing, and they're, oh my God, they hate it. And virtually every famous actor and actress has talked about being nervous before going on stage. And it's just sort of, but you have to, like, okay, I'm afraid. Okay, I'm resistant. Okay, I might suck, but you just go do it anyway. And then, oh, that wasn't so bad. In fact, my whole life has gotten better now. It's pretty simple, but the simple things sometimes are the most challenging. Awesome. Thanks so much for being here, and thanks for your question and for being willing to come right on camera and ask. Anything else, or I'll remove your pin. But nice having you here.
Yeah, thanks. No, I'm ready to pass along. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Fine, you got your camera working.
Yeah. After like 3 years of Zoom, I finally figured out how to put my video on a phone. Yeah, I really appreciate this, John. I'm sort of lurking at the moment because I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to approach this. I love the idea of being able. I have mixed feelings about the concept of AI, but to use it as a tool, as a creative tool, makes a little more sense to me. I don't know how that fits into all the royalty stuff and the stealing of images and all of that stuff. But so be it. I like the idea of it. And
Yeah, let me interrupt you for 1 second just to talk about that, because one of the interviews, and if you look at Video Mojo, you can go to combridges.com/blog for Video Mojo, but the interview is with a guy named David Boyle, and he called it an ethical dilemma, which I think is accurate, right? There's so much good opportunity and really empowerment that comes from AI. And there are legal issues that have to get dealt with, and there are other issues for sure. Everything, you know, if you want to talk about social media or talk about the internet or, you know, smartphones, or basically every technology comes with both dangers and opportunities. And, you know, this one is particularly challenging to manage. But the bottom line is that the toothpaste doesn't go back in the tube. The genie doesn't go back in the bottle. It's here to stay and is going to increasingly become part of our lives. All those other issues are real. I'm just not going to get into them right now. And I don't think I'll say it kind of bluntly. I think it's that you're shooting yourself in the foot not to learn how to use it, because it's going to be here and we do need to learn how to use it and take advantage of it. That also will help us manage it better. But fundamentally, the people that, you know, it's said many times by many people at this point, AI isn't going to take your job, but people who use AI are going to take your job. In other words, I'm a digital marketer. If I don't use AI, their digital marketers are going to be able to do more for less and, you know, have a real competitive advantage if I'm not on the bus. So I think it's an essential career opportunity. I also think from the point of view of creative play, I mean, the number of, you know, like I said, I created that graphic this morning just in my last minute kind of putting the presentation together. You know, that would have taken weeks in a previous lifetime. So anyway, I interrupted you, sorry.
Can you do that kind of thing? The graphic that you presented, I imagine you can do that as an animation, creating different cells and animating them. And
that's coming. I mean, that technology is not very good right now, but there are video, the more kind of, I don't know, photorealistic kind of imaging. I don't really mean to be plugging Video Mojo all the time, but there's another episode that I did with Nicholas Neubert, who's a German product designer who developed a movie trailer using Mid-Journey images that were animated in this video application called Runway. And the amount it's just moving so fast, Bond. It's extraordinary, but it's pretty funky at the moment, not kind of really ready for prime time. Nicholas talks about it to develop concepts for feature films, like his trailer for a non-existent, you know, made up feature film. That's what he created. Is a great like proof of concept. Like, here's an idea for a movie. Here's what the robots might look like. It's a sci-fi movie trailer. But producing the whole movie, not now. It's not there yet. But the pace of the way it's improving, you know, Midjourney, for example, as a image generator, you look at images that it was making 6 months ago and images that it's making today, and it's like, oh my God. And if you
I'm sorry,
project
what is Mid-Journey?
Midjourney is one of I would say it's the highest quality images, like what I was showing you in ChatGPT and DALL-E. It's better for concepts, but Midjourney has photorealism that I'm telling you, you can't tell the difference between a photograph and the
That's
quality
the
of
scary
images.
part.
So,
Yeah,
John, I did I recently in the last 6 months did a ad campaign that was about AI and created by AI, to talk about AI, and we used Mid-Journey, and then wanted to kind of promote the ethics, sort of AI ethics. So we weren't trying to dupe anybody on it. In fact, we even used a technology that created, it was similar to wave to lip technology. So we were taking these really cool images that were created that appeared to be like humans, and then animated their lips in a way that was kind of rough, right? So you knew it wasn't actually, it wasn't a real video that had been taken, but then found a different technology along the way. And one of the requirements of that technology being used was that it had to have AI in kind of a watermark on the video. So from those images, we created a 15 and 30-second commercial using the AI. And it ended up being a whole lot of fun to play with some of that new tech. And like you said, it's moving so fast that you can hardly, keep up with it. But I think there's a lot of really interesting applications where you can get extra creative with it.
Yeah, it's and that I think is one of the biggest dangers. There's going to be, I'm almost certain next year during the election, misinformation that will play a role, unfortunately, in what's going on, because you can't tell, it's gotten to the point where you can't tell the difference. Talking about audio, I told my son that we should have a safe word because it's easy to clone someone's voice, and it's already happening. Scammers would take a voice and then call up, like the example that my son would get a phone call in my voice. Oh, I've been kidnapped, and you need to ransom, whatever the thing is. And he would not be able, without a safe word or something, he wouldn't be able to tell that it wasn't my voice, that it was actually a scam. So anyway, Ron, were you getting to another question? Because we can go down this AI rabbit hole big time. Okay, cool.
No, I'm good.
All right, awesome. Thanks again for being here, and thanks for your question. Gina, anything else from you?
No, nothing else from me. I'm sorry. I'm actually going to have to jump off, but
right.
that's all. But this was great. Thank you so much for putting it together. And yeah, very, very. I've heard you talk about it, and I think it's got a lot. It's got legs. It's a great concept and a great way to collaborate. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks again for being here.
Yeah.
Anybody else? The floor is open. This is fun. Thank you so much for being here. I love the interactivity and talking about it. Mark, it's good to see you. How are you?
Couldn't find the pause button or the mute button. Doing good. And you're right. If you're not aware of AI, then you'll be way behind the curve. Not careful.
Yeah. Any comments or questions that you have, or just saying hello, which is
Just saying
perfectly
hello.
fine. All right. Awesome. Thanks again. All right. Well, I think we might be arriving at a natural ending point, unless anybody else has speak now or forever hold your peace. Anybody else?
I just want to thank you, John, for exposing me to the how to actually use AI. And John saw me with video projects in the past, and I've actually used some through Adobe as a Firefly app that is similar to Midjourney. I think Midjourney's got better looking graphics, like you said. But I think the lifelong learning is important, not only for your mental health, but to keep things that you're passionate about going. And just wanted to thank you.
Thank you. Can we tell the story about your documentary?
Sure.
And how AI. So it's funny, Jim and I are old friends in multiple ways. And he's working on a documentary about the classic rock FM station KSAN, and had a few, we call it B-roll in the business. He had a few spots where he needed images that weren't readily available. And I gave him a coaching session about how to use AI and generate images. And he had the world premiere of kind of like a preview version of the film, because it's still being finalized and in various ways. But anyway, it was awesome that he picked up the ball of AI and ran with it and was able to generate images that he could use to illustrate scenes in the movie. So that's a very real world example that just happened over the last month or two.
Yeah, it was exciting, especially if you get to a point where you've got to license certain things and you can't use that image or whatever. You have the opportunity to create your own.
Yeah.
I like the watermark.
No licensing costs.
Yeah.
Well, I like the watermark idea because I use artists. I've used graphic artists in the past, and photos, and I want people to get the credit for what they do, and that's what is the next step in getting this movie released, is paying everybody for what we've used. So
Good luck with that.
thank you.
All right. Well, that's it. Thank you all
you.
so much for showing up.
Thanks,
Thank you,
John.
Ron. Thank you,
Thanks,
Ron,
John.
for
Yep.
being here. And my parting words is keep going. It's like this stuff keeps moving, and we need to keep moving. And when you exercise that creative muscle, everything gets better, and you get the opportunity to be creative.
Okay, I'm starting the car now. I'm getting going.
All right. Thanks, John.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.